Welcome back, everyone, and hello to any new listeners out there. We're so excited for you to join us on today's episode of the Stock Show Sisters podcast. Joining us from Colorado, today's guest is Clancy Gunn, the brand experience lead for Vermeer's Forage Solutions and the former livestock coordinator at the National Western Stock Show. With a background in agricultural communications from Oklahoma State University and nearly a decade helping guide one of the most historic events in the livestock industry, Clancy has built a career at the intersection of agriculture, strategy, storytelling, and leadership. Today we discuss trusting God's plan even when you feel like you have failed, the benefit of working for a company whose values align with yours, as well as the importance of mentorship and saying yes to opportunities that will grow you. From preserving legacy institutions to serving a 500-plus dealer network across North America, she brings a powerful perspective on building a career that aligns with your values and knowing when it's time for your next chapter. Join me in welcoming a total girl boss, Mrs. Clancy Gunn. Clancy, thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of the Stock Show Sisters podcast. I have been looking forward to our episode and all of the insight and experiences that you're going to share with our listeners. I know we've had some pretty impactful conversations, so I can't wait to see what all you have to share today. So without further ado, would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself, how you got involved in the ag industry, and where you're from?
You bet. First off, thanks for having me on. Connecting with just next gen ag marketers and ag communicators like you is seriously the best part of, honestly, some of my life. Just really appreciate you thinking of me for this and hope that through our conversation, maybe it leads to even more connection. Like you said, my name is Clancy Gunn. My husband Brandon and I get to call Johnstown, Colorado home. And essentially, my everyday, I get to work to get yellow iron of Vermeer in the hands of the salt of the earth people and customers in the hay and forage industry, and also support the 500 plus network of dealers across North America who carry the products that we build. There's a lot of other things that my husband and I like to do for fun, spending time in the mountains with our family and friends, and sure like to get him to do some occasional projects around our house. So
You live in Colorado now, and you're originally from Colorado, correct?
yeah, so I grew up on a farm here about 30 minutes from where we live in Longmont. My dad was a custom hay operator, and I was super involved with 4-H and FFA growing up and never showed anything on a larger scale. But sure, that came a part of my life a little later on in my career, as I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yes, I'm excited to get into that. After Colorado, you and your time in 4-H and FFA, you ended up at Oklahoma State and studied agricultural communications.
Yep. I honestly went into college thinking that I would be a nutritionist. Growing up, we would deliver hay to a lot of dairies, and that side of the business always interested me. But I think college too is a part of figuring out what is not meant for you. And I quickly realized that I was not very good at math and formulas, and realized that maybe more of my natural gifts lie in relationships and connection and marketing and design and things like that. So that's what led me to the ag com path. I just could not brag enough on the ag com program at Oklahoma State. I give a lot of credit to the people, the lessons, and honestly the curriculum and skills that I learned there to what I get to do today, honestly.
You mentioned that you were interested in nutrition to begin. So did you always envision yourself working in agriculture, or to be in a role like you're in now, or how did that evolve over time?
Yeah, I'm a daddy's girl at heart for sure. And so I wanted to just be a lot like him. And both of my parents are actually naturally creative in their own ways. And so I probably always had that little bit of a knack for it. But once I really got into college, I probably realized the reality of where my strengths were, what I was a little more curious about, what brought me the most fulfillment. But there's not a time in life that I can remember that I didn't want to be involved in agriculture, which I think is interesting too. I've got two older brothers, and we were raised on the same farm. And although they definitely took the lessons that it gives a lot of us, they both work in tech and IT security and just never really had an interest in pursuing a career in ag. And that was just something that was a non-negotiable for me. So I just always knew that it was something that I wanted to do and be a part of.
I like that you touched on the fact that even though a lot of people do come from agricultural backgrounds, they don't always pursue a career in it. And I think that really emphasizes the importance of people pursuing a career if it is something that interests them, because our industry needs more people that are passionate about it, and especially those that have backgrounds in the industry, because we're getting less and less people to work and continue growing our industry.
Yes, for sure. And I think even take my brothers, for example, there's a lot of people that grow up in ag that still have a love for it and an appreciation for it. And I think even my time at the stock show taught me a lot of that. There's a lot of people that maybe aren't in agriculture every day, but still want to stay connected to it and want to support it. So I think it's something to remember too.
For sure. Everyone that plays a role, small or big, is impactful and is essential to the success of the industry. So you studied agricultural communications. Did you get any minors or anything like that while you were at Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I had a minor in animal science, which again, I think was good for me to see an ag major through another lens or just another department. But like I said, I think a lot of my strengths just naturally lied on the marketing side. I just quickly learned, I don't know why I'll vividly remember this, but we took a nutrition class and we could only have a very small cheat sheet for formulas. And I still just had immense panic and anxiety going into that test. And I just never felt those same feelings on the ag com side. Like I said, I appreciated the time and the exposure and honestly the connections of the network of people that I got on the animal science side. But yeah, just didn't use that as much as I do today as for the other side of my degree.
Right. You'll feel peace where your passion and your strengths are. And I think that is a huge scare tactic that professors will still use and will always use, is that you only get a note card to help you. And it's probably supposed to benefit us, but I think it scares us more than anything. Before we move on to your steps after Oklahoma State, were there any mentors or maybe big experiences or impactful experiences while you were at Oklahoma State that really influenced your career direction?
Specifically, I took a design class, and the TA that we had in that class, she told me, she's like, "Hey, I think you have a natural like knack for this." And I was like, "What? Seriously? No, this is not what I'm meant to do." So, like her just saying that and encouraging me, if I'm looking back to a pivot point, that was probably one of them, was taking that class, which then just sent me on a different trajectory of this, a whole nother skill set that I learned, which was really cool. So yeah, I had an internship after that semester that I got to literally just design for an entire summer. And I got to just really focus and hone in on my skills there. And that was just super helpful. When I think about just mentors in general, there's a gal named Kylie Denise. When I moved to Oklahoma, I actually didn't know that many people. I moved there on a whim, if I'm being honest. And she's been kind of a common thread of like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And she has always been just a navigational beacon to just give me honest feedback that I need and has really helped me steer certain directions in my career path.
Yeah. Oh, those people are so meaningful. I know everyone should definitely seek out a mentor that encourages you, but is also honest based on their experience and how they know you and your strengths. So that's awesome that you were able to have that TA and to have Kylie to kind of be a sounding board.
Yes, 1,000%. And I think too, when I look back at my time at National Western, that was one of the most valuable things that I got from that is a lot of the interns that we had there are now my peers and honestly some of my really good friends. And I think it's just one of the most beautiful gifts that life has probably given me. So yeah, mentorship and just being able to have those phone calls that I would call Kylie about, to have those with several others years down the line is just really cool.
You mentioned National Western. Can you walk us through your career journey? Basically, just kind of overview, bird's eye, from when you graduated from Oklahoma State to where you are now.
So I had a job in Texas right out of college, and I was doing a lot of design work. That was my sweet spot at the time, and I just thought that's what I would do for a really long time. And it actually didn't work out. And I don't know much about your Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 3, which is the achiever. And to fail at my first job just devastated me, and I felt extremely lost. So I was down in Texas and I packed my car up and I drove home, and I was moving back into my parents' basement. I honestly just felt like a loser. I'm like, here I am. I have a college degree. This is not what my friends are doing. What in the world am I doing? And again, I called Kylie and I just said, what do I do? I was so convinced and so convicted that this is what I was supposed to do. And obviously it's not. So what do I do? And she said, you need to call the National Western and just take a data entry clerk job for 6 months to just figure your life out. Give yourself some grace and make your next move in the next 6 months to a year. And I said, okay. So I did that, and I was literally just putting in entries. That was before we had any of these really cool livestock entry platforms. And during those 6 months, anybody that knows me knows that I am a really big question master. So naturally, when I was there, I just started having questions like, hey, do we have an Instagram or a Facebook that's dedicated just to our livestock exhibitors? And what if we tried this? Or could I design a flyer for that? Or could I do a logo for this event? Naturally, just asking those questions, they let me do it. It was a small team at the time, and I was able to just do some really cool projects. So after those 6 months, it actually turned into almost 10 years of being there. And a lot of that was through like just asking questions, asking for opportunities, not being able to be afraid to speak up. So I actually got a job in the marketing department for about a year and a half. And I ran all of the social media channels and then did our e-blast platforms and managed when we would have on-site PR during the stock show. And I still get to volunteer and help out with some of that there today, which is really cool. But then a door opened and I was able to move back to the livestock department and take all of the livestock marketing responsibilities with me. So I did that, and that was my main role there for the last 6 or 7 years that I was there. And along that same vein, was able to work on the redevelopment and expansion project that the National Western Center campus is still going through to this day. But the main project that I worked on was for the new yards and Stockyards Event Center. So that was really cool. Really enjoyed that role there. So that's my time about National Western. It was a little bit of a journey, but man, was it fun. And I sure loved my time and all the people that I got to meet there.
That seems like a great overall experience, and really neat that you were able to be in several different roles within the same organization, because I think that in today's world, especially with my generation, I think we kind of set our minds on being in one type of position and hopping from one company to another, but in that same role, instead of really trying to be open minded about where your strengths might be valuable in other places and trying new things. So I'm really glad that you shared that with us. And I find it very encouraging that, like you said, you felt like a failure, but that was probably part of God's plan. And if your first career wouldn't have worked out or didn't work out the way that it did, then you wouldn't be where you are today. So that was super helpful.
1,000%. And I think too, to what you just said, God is always looking out for your next move. And I think even before I was ready to leave, it's no secret that through COVID, National Western went through some really hard and trying times. And being in the middle of that and just caring so much, it was hard to not let it wear on me and a lot of others that were involved for sure. But within that, I was trying to do as much PR and recovery work as I could with the small team that we had at the time. And so I actually went on as a guest on some other podcasts, just talking about this was going to be the first year that the yards was opening. There was just so many unknowns. It's really hard to visualize it until you go and see it for yourself, which we knew was really cool. And we really believed in the project and we believed in what we were doing. And luckily, it's really proven itself to what it's been today, 4 or 5 years later. But when I went on as a guest on one of those podcasts, there's a guy who has a sale at National Western. His name is Dave Duello. And Dave Duello heard me on this podcast. And he sent it to one of his best friends. And he said, you need to figure out how to get this girl on your team someday. And fast forward about a year later, I was ready to leave my job. And the guy that was on the receiving end of that text message was the one that ended up hiring me at Vermeer. So it's just really cool. You never know when God is really looking out for you, even when you don't know what your next step is. Or at the time, I wasn't sure that I was ready to leave or whatnot. The fact that he was looking out for me all that time beforehand is just pretty cool.
I feel like there are so many stories like yours out there, and we kind of brush over them because they're a little blip in time, but it took that one simple motion for him to send that podcast via text, and that completely changed the trajectory of your career. So that is so neat, and I wish that there was some way we could highlight that in everyone's lives, because I know that those moments happen for everyone, because God is so present in our plan and in our journeys that sometimes we overlook it.
And it's so easy to get discouraged when you're in a hard chapter or a challenging chapter, which are frankly unavoidable. Like everybody's going to go through them, everybody's going to hit them. But when I was growing up, my mom always had this sign hanging in our house, and it said, "You behave your way to success." And I think that just shows through, especially when you're going through hard times. The easy thing to do would be negative and dwell and all these things. But what if instead we dwelled in the possibility and just having like that undeniable faith that God already has our next step planned out for us?
Maybe I should get a sign like that and hang it in my house.
There you go. There you go. Mom knew what she was doing.
She did. And when we were younger, we wouldn't admit it, but I will from now on tell my mom that she was right, even though I argued with her every day as a teenager.
Yep, I'm right there with you, girl.
Well, you mentioned the redevelopment and the new yards and the event center. What was it like leading those efforts? And maybe from your perspective now as a volunteer, what does that impact look like for the National Western?
It was interesting, but I learned so much. So, the National Western Center project itself is comprised of the city, county of Denver, and then the National Western Stock Show itself, which is a nonprofit organization, and then also Colorado State University. So, you had a government, a nonprofit, and a land grant university all trying to accomplish goals on the same soil, which can give its own challenges, right? But also, some of the people that I got to meet and connect with and collaborate with were incredible. And I still get to go to the stock show and give them hugs and celebrate and stand in the facilities that we used to meet for hours and hours on. And obviously, that baton was passed to another talented team after I left, and they've since opened even better facilities. But it is just so cool. And you know what I think it taught me was to just be open to other people's perspectives. And not everybody has a direct tie to agriculture or a direct connection or as deep of an understanding as we do. But there's two sides to that coin of like we have the opportunity to teach them about it, but at the same time, we also have the opportunity to protect what we have going as well. It was truly an honor to be able to be one of the voices in the room, standing up for the generations of livestock exhibitors that have gone to the National Western for literally 120 years and focus and on facilities that will hopefully be there in another 120 years. It was really cool. And the fact that I still get to go back and hug and love on all of those people and celebrate them and their hard work, it gives you this higher level of purpose and love and appreciation for it.
Oh, I love that you were able to see the fruits of all your labor from when you were still with them and how it's trickling into the new team and all of the work that's still being done based on what you guys were able to start while you were there. So I'm sure that's super rewarding. To kind of wrap up talking about your time at National Western, you spent nearly a decade there. Overall, if you could take away one of the most impactful lessons, what did that experience mean to you?
It meant the world to me, honestly. It gave me a place to grow and learn, just selfishly as a person, but also gave me a place and an opportunity to invest in next gen agriculture, which not a lot of people can say. It was an honor. I'm so grateful for it. I don't regret one day of it, even through the hard times. appreciate the lessons that I've learned. It sure taught me to do a lot with a little. Being a nonprofit sure can give its challenges, but man, does it also teach you how to hustle and ask for a lot of favors, appreciate a lot of people that do those favors. I have this at Vermeer too, but just show that work can also bring this sense of family. And the fact that can still stand true today, like I told you earlier, you can't put a price on that.
You mentioned how you were introduced and hired at Vermeer and that bridge. So, what did your transition look like? I know the roles are quite different, but at the same time, there was definitely some overlap in the PR and the communications and relationships part of it. So, what did that transition look like from National Western to Vermeer?
After I left National Western and started at Vermeer, I actually went on a 1 year contract. I did enough freelance design work that Vermeer wanted to see if a role could be worth it to have on their team of like what if we sent a person with marketing intentions out into the field to be with our dealers and customers and just essentially listen and like get a gauge on is what we're doing now working? What are the opportunities that we can change and pivot on? How can we improve what we're already doing? And so that's what I did. I put on, I don't even know how many nights in a hotel and how many miles on an airplane. But that's essentially what I spent my first year at Vermeer doing was learning the dealer network, understanding the current state of marketing. So then opportunities and doors opened to become an actual Vermeer employee. So I did that and had another opportunity to lead our team. And that's what I get to do today, which is pretty darn fun.
So you're the brand experience lead. So what does that look like day to day? I'm assuming it's different than what it used to look like when you first started with them. I know we've talked about it on our own time, but for our listeners out there, what could a title like that, what are the responsibilities look like on a day to day basis?
So, a little about Vermeer to begin with. Whenever we ask people, what do you know about Vermeer? They either know that it's like big drills and heavy equipment or hay balers. And we actually build all of them. So that's what's really cool. Vermeer is a family owned company based in Pella, Iowa, but we have business globally. So, we do business in many countries around the world. But the business unit that I focus on is in Forage. And we have several other business units in environmental, forestry, industrial products, surface mining, things like that. But I get to focus in Forage, which is super fun. And if there was any role that I could have transferred into to work with a very similar group of people, it was this one for sure. Because equipment dealership owners and farmers and ranchers are a lot of who I was working with at the National Western too, which is super fun. So yeah, on my day today, my team is incredible. I could probably brag about them for several hours as well, but we have a fearless leader. Her name is Ashley Schuler, and she really helps drive the strategy and direction of what we're doing forage marketing wise. And then there's myself who gets to lead quite the talented tribe. I've got Bailey Kraft. She focuses on dealer marketing. So, very similar role to what I was doing as a contractor when I came on at Vermeer, but now that role has come to fruition, and she's just an absolute rock star. And then we also have a full time designer. Her name is Jordan Crozier. She is an awesome talent. And then we've also got an AV specialist who is a unicorn in so many ways, and his name is Matt Lang. And so he does all of our video work. And then I also get to work alongside a gal named Kendra Monit, whose Small World was one of our media interns at the National Western. Now I get to work on a team with her, and she focuses on how we bring products to market and our NPPDS process and how we collaborate with engineering and product management and all those kind of things. So that's kind of the structure of our team. But within that too, and within my role specifically, I obviously get to work with awesome people, but we've also brought all of our paid media in-house. So I manage all of our paid media and really help with a lot of the creative and project flow there. I get to manage all of our trade shows and sponsorships with a lot of our livestock friends and industry partners there, which is super fun. And then all sorts of different things, whether it's working with our innovations team of new products that we're bringing to market, all the little things. And I think there's specifically a line of and other duties included in everybody's job description that I get to do a lot, which is super fun and what makes the job fun. I'd say like some of my favorite days on the job is when I still get to go out into the field. When we're going to launch new products, I get to do photo and video shoots and things like that and just reconnect with our dealer network and our customers and the people who we build the products for. So yeah, there's a lot of things that tie into it. And I think what's also cool is tying back to college, there are a lot of things that I actually learned in college that I still use today. So I know there's a lot of people that don't use their degree, but I use my degree quite a bit, I would say, on the day to day.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I've been a part of the Ranch House Designs team for over 10 years. As a proud mom of 2 girls who show sheep and goats and stay busy with sports, I know the value of reliability and a quick turnaround. And that's exactly what the Ranch House Designs Web Updates team delivers. When you have a website with Ranch House, you get unlimited updates, all guaranteed within 3 business days. And 99% of the time, we take care of them the same day. It's just one of the ways we make sure your brand is always at its best. Visit ranchhousedesigns.com to get your free quote today.
Everyone, if you aren't smiling from ear to ear like I am right now, you should be able to tell just from the first part of what Clancy was sharing about her job that she's a total girl boss. I totally admire the wonderful things that you've been able to accomplish in the team that you've built. And I think that everyone should strive to love their job and to be as good at their job as you and your team are, because y'all are rock stars. I can't recommend you guys as role models enough because y'all are doing an awesome job.
I'll say too, it makes it easy. We get to work in a team and in a business that we are just in constant pursuit of finding a better way and better solutions for the demographic of people that we care about the most. And so the fact that we just get to be like a very intentional company and business supported by a large global corporation as well is just really cool. The people behind the brand, my team, our dealers, and our customers, they make it a privilege to get to show up to work every day. And I know that if you were to talk to hopefully anybody on my team, that they would say the same thing.
I love that you brought that up and how y'all's business is still family owned and that everyone shows up to work and is passionate about what you guys are doing and the people that you're helping each day. I think that leads us perfectly into the next topic that I think a lot of times, maybe not so much now, but workplace culture was this big buzzword. And I think, especially my parents, we just didn't really talk about it being anything important. You find a good paying job, a stable job, and you just put your head down and work through it, through anything that comes up. But it's really important. And from my own experiences, I can tell that it definitely impacts how productive you are, how successful you are, the impact that you have on the people you're working with and the people that you're serving and working for. So, from your time at Vermeer, could you maybe share some signs that tell you an organization has a healthy culture for younger professionals that haven't had as much experience in a company where they can decide whether or not a culture is healthy?
I think it's so fun at Vermeer. You see the family members all the time, which I think is also just really cool. It all starts at Gary Vermeer's house, and it's the epitome of the American dream, honestly. They've turned his house into a museum. We can actually host special guests and customers and dealers in his house and have lunch in his house. And I think things like that, starting at the core of that, is just really cool and just says a lot and speaks to how it started and then everything that it's grown into. But the fact that they still honor that and know that it's an important part says a lot. But Vermeer's also very transparent about their 4P philosophy. At the heart of it is principles, which essentially is the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated. But then it's surrounded by product, people, and profit. And they're just very clear and very intentional about that. The reason why we're all showing up every day is because of these 4 things. And I think it's just really awesome and that everybody shows up and believes in that. They invest in their leaders. I can't tell you how many classes that I've gotten to take, whether it was around the way that I think, the way that my personality is, the way that I lead people. We have a whole series called Vermeer University where you can take courses like that, and they want to develop their people, which is really cool. Specific to Vermeer, it's obviously manufacturing is hard work. And in each one of our manufacturing plants, which again is just right there in Pella, there's a dedicated chaplain, like 24/7, to all employees. So if you ever need to talk to somebody, they can give you resources. Ours is named Rev Kev. He often makes rounds and or he'll just randomly send you an email like, hey, it's Rev Kev, just checking up on you. I think little things like that are really cool. There's actually an on-site Walgreens pharmacy and like dedicated medical staff on the mile as well. And then there's also things like the Yellow Iron Academy, where they know there's a lot of married families or couples that work at Vermeer who have children. So there's a place where people can send their kids for daycare and childcare. But I think it all centers around the 4P philosophies, right? Product, people, profit, embodied in pretty much everything that you see and experience when you go to Vermeer. So I think when you talk about the culture, like that is just infectious in the people, the things that we do, the facilities that you see, the initiatives that the company does. If you're looking at going to work somewhere, just ask those kind of questions and ask employees or ask whoever is interviewing you those questions of what does the culture at the company mean to you? It's one thing to have the words or to say it, but it's another thing to do it and prove it through your actions. And I think that's a lot of what makes the Vermeer culture what it is.
That was the perfect example of the trickle-down effect from the leadership and from the owners of the company and the family that started it. I'm getting a minor in leadership here at Texas A&M, and we talk a lot about theory and a lot about culture and emotional and social intelligence. And so I think it was very valuable, all of the things that the Vermeer leadership is investing in and the way that they pour into their employees. And you can obviously see the effects of that and the long-term commitment that the employees have, because not only are they committed to the company, but the company is committed to them, and it's just equally beneficial for everyone involved. So if that doesn't tell everyone, all of our listeners out there, how important culture is, and I don't know what can convince you, because it definitely shows in Clancy's experience, and I'm sure many of the other Vermeer employees can speak to that same experience that she's had. Since we did just share a little bit of advice for maybe some younger professionals in regards to culture, I want to talk a little bit about any advice that you might have for college students, whether they're in agriculture, not in agriculture, that are trying to figure out their first step after graduation. Because I know myself and quite a few others that are about to graduate and we're in the job search, or we're maybe some of my friends that are about to finish graduate school. What's your advice for those students that are transitioning from the education world to the professional world?
Two main things. I'd say build relationships and not just your resume. Also, to say yes to opportunities that stretch you. And I am still doing both of those for sure. So it's not even just for people right out of school. But when I say like build relationships and not just your resume, some of the biggest turning points in my career have come from questions and conversations and not just job postings. So prioritize people, whether it's your peers. I can't tell you how many people I went to Oklahoma State with, that I worked at National Western with, that like are my professional peers now. How many interns I had that are now my professional peers. And you just never know the connections that will be a common thread throughout your life, honestly. But yeah, professors, mentors, industry people, just build those relationships. You never know what doors they will open, what perspectives that they will offer. Like I said, even about Kylie, like just helping me navigate decisions that I didn't even know that I would ever have to make. Huge focus on relationships. And then your resume will probably come naturally from that. But then to also say yes to opportunities that stretch you. Like, I think it's so easy, and this happened to me, like your first job does not have to be your dream job, right? Like I literally was in my parents' basement putting in livestock entries in an office. You got to start somewhere, but it also needs to be a place where you can grow. Look for roles that challenge you, that expose you to new ideas and new perspectives. I think that's a lot of what I got at my time at National Western. I'm telling you, every day still at Vermeer, it stretches me. And it'll just help you discover what you want to do. Like I said, what you don't want to do early in your career. Learning is just way more important than titles early on. I think it's so easy to want to chase those, and not to say that you shouldn't chase those, because they definitely come with satisfaction and reward. But especially right out of school, just don't be scared. Say yes to the opportunities that stretch you.
That is wonderful advice, and will definitely be taking it myself. But as someone that has, you've mentioned that you've worked with several interns and you've put together a team both at National Western and at Vermeer, whether it's young professionals or someone that's been in the workplace for a while with several years of experience, what makes them stand out?
I would say the non-measurables makes a lot of people stand out. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to listen to a guy named David Salyers speak. He was the original CMO of Chick-fil-A. And he says that, let's just say in the ag com space, 80% of what we do is the same as everybody else. But 20% of what you do can make 100% of the difference. And so find your 20%. When I look back at the most unique, successful, different folks that I've had the chance to work with, they knew what their 20% was. I think whether you're really creative, you're really good at X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, but lean into your 20%, and then also just have those non-measurable things, right? I think you can be taught how to work in a spreadsheet, you can learn a new program, you can adapt to different processes, but if you don't know how to communicate, pick up your phone, be honest, show up when it's hard, being authentic. I think there's a lot of like those unmeasurables that you can't teach and develop in somebody. Sure, you can try to influence it, but focus on those and then just find what is your 20% that is going to make you stand out, be memorable, that you can embrace really through the rest of your career.
That is awesome. I want to say you had told me that previously, but such a good reminder and super helpful for anyone navigating maybe a change in purpose or a change in their career. Really just trying to do some self-reflection and figure out where your path is headed next. I completely forgot to mention how you and I actually got introduced while we were on the subject of relationships and the importance of them. But for those of you out there, Clancy had mentioned how important it is to do things that might stretch you and that maybe make you uncomfortable. And for me, that was applying to an internship at the American Royal in Kansas City. And even though I grew up showing and I've been fortunate to do a handful of stock show internships, I had never been to Kansas City. So it was a big change, definitely put me outside my comfort zone. And on top of that, I spent a lot of time in the sheep and goat ring. And so if you know me, I'm definitely a pig and cattle girl. But if I wouldn't have done those things and put myself in that position, I would have never met Clancy. And I am so grateful that I did those things. And among other people that I was able to meet and work with that week, she has definitely been a great role model and someone that has given me some mentorship since then. And I think that's just a perfect example of what she had mentioned earlier about the importance of stepping outside of your comfort zone and making those relationships, because I can tell you, I definitely want to maintain a relationship with her for the rest of our careers. Let that be a testament to what she had to share earlier.
Yes, I am known to make an appearance at a stock show or two still, even though I am a little bit of a has-been. There is a small group of us that still love to help out at a handful of shows. I actually met my husband at the State Fair of Texas, and Daryl Real, he's the livestock director down there. Actually, I think his title is a little bit bigger than that even. We call him Big Tex, but he married Brandon and I. So that stuff runs in our blood, and I think I'll never lose that. I've told you, I think since the first 15 minutes that we talked, Riki, I'm like, girl, you are special. You're going to be a rock star. I want you in my corner. So yeah, it was so fun getting to know you, and I know you got to know a handful of our friends in that little group as well. But I would say too, anybody that sees me at a stock show, I love sitting and chatting. I think after we were talking that one day, I got to see one of our old interns, Whitney Dahmer, and her and I were just almost in tears, just having a heart to heart out on the patio at the American Royal. And it's a very special place, stock shows are in general, to connect with our people. So I'm so glad that you are in my corner now.
I couldn't agree more. And definitely want to echo, if you guys ever see Clancy or myself anywhere at a stock show or out and about in the wild, holler at us and we'd love to meet you and chat with you. But you mentioned how you and Brandon met, and I know we had our girly talk about it, and most of our listeners are young girls and women. So I did want to talk a little bit about dating and navigating relationships as a young professional and a girl boss, for lack of better words, because you did have a growing career, but you also were dating Brandon. As a driven professional woman in agriculture, how did you navigate dating and relationships alongside that career growth?
I'll be honest, through a lot of my 20s, I didn't do it. I just focused a lot on my career. I met Brandon in my late 20s, and I just realized that the right relationship won't compete with your ambition, that it will complement it. And that's exactly what it does. So when I met him, one of the things that stood out immediately was that he did not ask me to slow down or dim my light or anything. He understood the work, he respected the passion behind it because we shared it. At the time, he was the executive at the Texas Pork Producers Association and was a judging coach before that. But he supported the direction that my career was going, and that made all the difference. And I think a lot of driven women, especially in agriculture, feel like they have to choose. And it's almost like, how do I find that balance? Well, I think you can balance anything. It's more of what do you prioritize? I didn't have to choose between building a strong career and building a strong relationship. Finding him reminded me that the right person just steps into the rhythm with you. He brought me stability right when I needed it because it was in the chaos of COVID. And he gave me the encouragement when I was really stretched thin. And he gave me the perspective that I needed when the work got heavy or when I decided that I wanted to make a huge career change. It wasn't really about choosing a career or our relationship, and it never has been. And I'm just so grateful for that. He is a unicorn in so many ways. But it was about choosing the partner who understood that both of those really mattered to me. And luckily, both of them really mattered to him too. He's a almost annoyingly driven person. So my advice, I guess, is just like, don't shrink your goals to fit someone else's comfort zone. And I think that's what I was afraid of for so long. And probably why I didn't really date through college or my early 20s was because I would have to sacrifice my career in order to have like a marriage or a relationship. But put yourself in places like where people understand your world, and when you meet someone who supports the work that you really love and the person that you're becoming, that's when you know that you have found the right fit. And that's exactly what it meant for Brandon and I. And I think too is going back to like God watching out for us. Like God had to remove so many obstacles in order for Brandon and I's relationship to work. And luckily it did. We were long distance for the first year and a half that we dated because again, like we were both figuring out, do we have to sacrifice? How do we balance and prioritize? And the fact that he was living in Texas, I was living in Colorado, we had completely different careers. The amount of things that God had to remove in our way in order for us to have the life that we do now, like truly only he could do it. And it's just a really beautiful thing when you just have faith and trust that the right person's going to be put in your path right when they need to be.
I look forward to meeting my Brandon. And I know that everyone else definitely can and definitely will. Even though sometimes we feel the pressure to time everything perfectly between our career and dating and social media, and everyone's posting about getting engaged and whatnot. I think everyone's definitely on their own timeline, and there's someone out there for everyone that God has specially set aside for you to meet in your own unique ways, and that will complement you, like you said, and not dim your light. And I think that's really important that you touched on that, and that you can have it all if you're willing to work through it and be yourself.
Brandon and I joked too that if we would have met much earlier in our lives, that it probably wouldn't have worked out. God's always working on us, and like we were just becoming the best versions of ourselves so that we could be the best version for each other. And then being together only multiplies that. So just trust that. I think forcing a good thing to happen is really easy to do. And I think as an inner perfectionist, that could be really easy to do is to try to shape someone or a relationship or something into something that it's not. But when you truly have faith in who that person is and you have just undeniable trust and love for each other, it's really hard for it not to work out. So trust in that and have faith in it.
Yeah. I think that is the perfect sweet note to end on. But Clancy, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we got into a couple of rapid fire questions?
Like we've said a bunch on here, trust that God is always working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. Just keep moving, keep showing up, keep working hard, hold your plans with open hands, and what is meant for you will not pass by. So, God's timing is always better than your timeline, and He's laying out far more meaningful things than you could have ever drawn up for yourself. And just don't forget that. And lean into your tribe too. I can't tell you how many times I need to call friends or call family or chat with Brandon about life and what I'm going through. And it's okay to not be perfect, and know that you have so many people that love you and that want to love on you too. Like I said, more people that I have in my corner, I would love y'all. So anybody listening, I would just love to connect.
Amen to all of those things. Clancy has been a wonderful guest. But before we wrap up, I wanted to let the listeners get to know you a little through some rapid fire questions. So, what is your favorite species?
Pigs.
What's something you can't function without during stock shows? And I think I know the answer to this, but I want to see if I'm right.
There's two things. I do love drink sticks. I have these drink sticks that even outside of stock shows, they are a personality trait of mine. Undeniably, too, I also love ranch dressing. So when I was at National Australia, we could live off of like chicken fingers, French fries, and ranch dressing. But also, yeah, a hope, a prayer, lots of friends. There's a lot of things I probably can't survive.
We got to put everybody on these drink sticks because I had never met someone that loved them as much as myself. And we got to be advocates for them because they do wonders on your energy level and your attitude. And they definitely get me to drink a lot more water than I probably would without them. So, what's your favorite stock show fashion trend?
I would say turquoise jewelry. That's an easy one. I love it. I think it enhances every single outfit. Everybody looks beautiful and feels more confident in it. Like, it's really hard to get around that one for me.
Yes. And you've always had beautiful stacks and all the jewelry and outfits I love. I wanted to see where our listeners can find you so that they can connect after the episode.
Yes, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. I think a lot of you hopefully maybe even have my number. Shoot me an email, give me a call. Yeah, anyway, I would love to connect with you guys.
Clancy, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Stock Show Sisters. For all of our listeners out there, Clancy's journey reminds us that careers aren't built overnight, but they're built through courage, alignment, and a willingness to step into new chapters. Whether you're navigating your first job, evaluating company culture, or balancing ambition with personal life, her story is proof that when your values and your work align, impact follows. Agriculture needs leaders who honor tradition while boldly shaping the future, and Clancy is doing exactly that. With that, be sure to follow our page and join our group on Facebook where you can get updates about the podcast, ask questions, and even share motivation with other young girls and women in the stock show industry. Until next time, sisters, this is your co-host, Riki Nardiello, and I hope you have a fabulous week.